Mel Kiper Jr., new big board just released this morning. A couple of Crimson Tide players up top. Will Anderson Jr. could be a Heisman Trophy favorite this year. You've got Bryce Young, who won it last year. 3 Bama players in the top 8 with cornerback Eli Ricks there as well. He transferred in from LSU. Third on the board, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. Never too early to welcome in Mel Kiper Jr. to talk draft. And Mel, you have Will Anderson Jr. there at the top of the big board. To you, what makes him stand out from the rest of this upcoming draft class?
Matt, what doesn't he do well? I mean, you know, but what he's able to do rushing the passer is great. Okay, 17.5 sacks, phenomenal. How about 34.5 tackles for loss? How impactful Will Anderson Jr. is against the run makes him really special. Then you throw in the character, which is off the charts. He wanted no parts last year of anything to distract him. NILs, none of that. Just play football. He's all business. He's got to be, at the end of the day, one of Nick Saban's all-time favorite players. Will Anderson Jr., to unseat him at the top of the board, Matt, I wouldn't say it's impossible to do, but it's going to be very difficult. And if he's not the number 1 overall pick, it's only because the team picking number 1 needs a quarterback, not a pass rusher. So to me, he's, I'd say, not just slightly, there's a gap between Will Anderson Jr. and everybody else, specifically on the defensive side of the ball.
If you can, some perspective, where would he have been taken had he been able to come out after a sophomore year?
Number 1 overall. I mean, you think about production. He did more in 1 year than some guys do in a career. In fact, most do in a career. You're talking about 34.5 tackles lost in 1 season, Matt. This kid brings it every game. There were very few games, if any, where he was contained or shut down. You just can't do it to this guy. The consistency from game to game throughout the year was remarkable. So, yeah, he'd be, to put it simply, in most drafts, he would be the number 1 guy overall.
Called the Alabama spring game this year. At the half, Nick Saban says, we don't have anybody that can block 31. Well, if Alabama doesn't have anybody that can block 31, who do you think around the country is going to be able to block him this upcoming season? You had quarterback Bryce Young just ahead of C.J. Stroud. Give me what makes Young the better prospect.
You know, they're about even going in. It's really, let's see how they play. You know, in year 2 as a starting quarterback, you think about C.J. Stroud, physically gifted. Bryce Young, only around 6 feet, 5'11 and a half, 195. But he is a guy with a quick release. He's the point guard, Matt. He's a guy who sees the field so well. He's a guy, can he run? Yeah, he can run, but he chooses necessarily, I don't need to do that, okay? I'm going to wait, buy time, and then now hit a new cast of characters. Jermaine Burton comes over from Georgia. Tyler Harrell comes over from Louisville. They'll be the 2 wide receivers like Jamison Williams was last year. You think about Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield taking over Brian Robinson Jr. Gibbs more explosive than Brian Robinson Jr. So how quickly he gets the timing down with Burton and Harrell. Gibbs is going to be great. This offense around Bryce Young should be really good.
Yeah, mark it down. Out of the backfield, Gibbs is going to catch a lot of balls from Bryce Young this fall. He's going to be tough to stop, as is that offense. You also have 3 other quarterbacks in your top 25. Take me through what you like about the next 3 quarterbacks on your big board.
Yeah, they're at 12, 13, and 22. It's going to be the year of the quarterback, Matt, no question about that. And think about Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. He's the kid, the big, strong arm, pocket passer who can beat you with his legs when he needs to, but he can make every throw. His accuracy overall I thought was pretty good. Now, he did have 4 games at 57% or worse. He needs to clean that up a little bit, but he's going to get better and better. I think Tyler Van Dyke, as a pure passer, could be as good as it gets, and he could ascend from that 12 spot on the board up into the top 10, maybe the top 5. Another guy, talk about ascending, Matt. How about Anthony Richardson? He's at 13. I put him in the middle of that top 25. Here's a kid flashed last year. Okay, it was not his deal. This year, he's the leader of this football team. His running skills are off the charts. He's got a big, strong arm guy. If he can become the pure passer he needs to be, consistency throwing the football, matches what he does overall as a runner, that dual threat ability and that tremendous athleticism, that speed, and the way he can scare a defense is going to allow him to soar up the board potentially. Then you think about Will Levis from Kentucky. Will Levis has the big-time NFL arm. He's also incredibly mobile for a big guy. He beats some teams with his legs, and he's the kind of guy who needs to cut down on the interceptions. 13 interceptions. There weren't many games, but 3 games where he didn't throw an interception. So he's got to clean that up. And also in the pocket, I think you think about the vision, seeing the field at times a little bit better. But he has some impressive performances, and he's got that wow arm talent, Matt. That's going to allow Will Levis to possibly move up from where I have him right now at 22 on the big board.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.